Greetings. I have with me today a very special guest who is appearing in our diplomatic corner, Now TV, and he's none other than His Excellency Ambassador Stephan Auer from the Bundesrepublik Deutschland, from Germany. Thank you for accepting my request to interview Your Excellency. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being on your show.
Thank you. Thank you. You have been quite a while a career diplomat. Could you say something about your diplomatic experience and your background? Thank you.
Yes, happy to do that. You know, I was born in Africa, by the way, so my father already was a diplomat. I was born in Morocco, and I lived quite a long time on the African continent. But then I joined the German Foreign Office and was posted mainly in European capitals, so I had to deal a lot with the German European policy.
I see.
And it was only, I think, my last posting which led me to other regions. East Asia, I was posted to South Korea as ambassador.
Wow.
And now, you know, before I finished my career, I wanted to come back to Africa, to my roots, more or less.
Yes.
And this is why I asked to be posted to Ethiopia, the capital of Africa,
It's true.
and to Addis Ababa, the capital of Africa. And I was very happy when my minister and the chancellor agreed to post me to Addis Ababa.
Wonderful, really. Wonderful. You have been here since 2020, I believe.
Absolutely.
And you have still some years to finish your term.
Yes, absolutely.
And we are really happy to have you. And the Deutsche-Ethiopische, the German-Ethiopian relations goes back quite a long time.
Indeed.
As far as I know, 1905, 117 years, I believe. And Germany, the good old Germany, in the past century, has been a good friend, and good formal diplomatic relations was undertaken with Deutschland. How would you assess this long-lasting, historical, really culturally very strong relations between the two countries?
Well, as you said, our relations are very long and have a very long tradition. It is true that we established diplomatic relations almost 120 years ago, but our cultural ties date back much longer. It was in fact in 1699 that the German professor, Professor Hiob, Hiob Ludolf, he was the one who first published a dictionary in Amharic, for the Amharic language, which shows that there was always a mutual interest in our cultures, in our traditions, since a long time. And this was, of course, the basis and is the basis for our very solid and long-lasting relationship between the two countries of us. It has gone through many ups and downs, of course, but I think what is very important for us Germans is that we see Ethiopia as an extremely important strategic partner in Africa. Ethiopia on the Horn of Africa is so important for the development of the region, for the future of the region, so that we have a very big interest in the stabilization of this country and of the economic development of Ethiopia.
Very true. Thank you. Very true. There is a whole lot of relations between Ethiopia and Deutschland and Germany. Education, economic relations, political relations. Over the years, Germany had really contributed in one way or the other in the economic, social development of Ethiopia. Could you like to say something about that? Yeah.
Yes. Well, very happy to do that. As I said, Ethiopia is a very important partner for Germany, and this is reflected in the fact that Ethiopia over the last years has been one of the biggest recipients of our development cooperation. You know that together with the EU, we're the biggest donors worldwide. And if we have Ethiopia as a partner, this means that we really mean it. We want to contribute to the social, economic development of this country. And as I said, I think what is very important is that this country develops itself so it becomes less dependent on development cooperation. We have an interest in doing that by promoting the conducive environment to promote investments in the private sector.
True.
We are very encouraged by the reform projects of His Excellency Abiy, the Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and we are supporting this. Of course, because of the recent developments of COVID and the conflict in North Ethiopia, these reforms didn't progress as they may, also as they could have. But I listened 3 days ago to the speech of the Prime Minister in Parliament, and I was very encouraged to hear that he is really still very much committed and engaged to reinitiate, to relaunch the reforms, and we think that is very important. So with other partners lately we have sort of refocused our development cooperation to the people-centered approach. So we wanted to alleviate the effects of the recent developments on the people, so we supported very much the safety net program, PSNP, but we hope that soon the conditions will be re-established so that we can re-engage again to the same extent as we did before this crisis developed.
Yeah, very true. And when allow me, indulge me to say something, you know, when we talk about educational relations with Deutschland, with Germany, I'm one of those products, I would say, I have to confess. I studied in Germany and utilized, benefited out of it as a university junior faculty at the time. We had a very strong relations with Germany as such. And you'll be amazed by the number of academics and researchers and even highly placed ministers even and ambassadors who had studied in Deutschland and who consider Deutschland as their second home. Have you come across some of these people maybe?
Yes, I have. When I have, I must say I'm very proud that they still have a very fond memory of their times in Germany. And I'm also very impressed by the excellent command of the German language they still have, including you, as I have just realized.
Thank you.
So I must say that is surely quite a big asset we have here in our bilateral relations. And let me also say one thing about not only the academic exchange we're having, but also about our cooperation in the field of TVET, vocational training.
Yes,
I think that is very important.
Very true.
I spoke about the development or the help to develop the private sector. I think the private sector is very important to create the jobs every country needs, and also Ethiopia needs. We have a lot of young people here and they're looking for jobs. And the private sector is the sector which creates the most jobs. We have that in all countries, in Germany as well.
Very true.
But it doesn't help if you just create jobs and if you don't have the people who are skilled enough to take up these jobs and to contribute to the development of the country. So this is why Germany is also very much concentrating on vocational training, so that the labor market gets the skilled workers it needs. I think this is a very important contribution we are also...
Very true. I couldn't agree more. You know, as academics for many years, we discuss among ourselves and the type of assistance that one gets from Germany and other certain European countries is empowering people, teaching them to start a business, for example, vocational. More academic and the guys, the kind of liberal arts and the like is either you have to be employed or you have to wait until the opportunity comes. But the kind of assistance, the vocational assistance that Deutschland, Germany has tremendous impact. One of them is, as I recall, GTZ.
GTZ.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They have created thousands of jobs empowering Ethiopians. So I couldn't really agree more.
I agree.
On the Dr. Abiy, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, went to Deutschland, Germany for the first time in 2018, I believe. Of course, the former Chancellor Angela Merkel came also in 2016, if I'm not wrong. And then in 2019, that was reciprocated by her Bundespresident, Dr. Frank Walter Steinmeier. And this also tells us the attention that Germany gives to Ethiopia on that line. Now, moving into bilateral in issues, are there any specific agenda or a specific plan when it comes to Ethiopia, or is Ethiopia part of the German African foreign policy?
I think you could say both. For us, Ethiopia, as I said in the beginning, is of a strategic importance. It's one of our major partners worldwide and in particular in Africa, because we think that Ethiopia has a leading role to play. It can develop into an economic and political powerhouse in Africa, or be even the economic and political powerhouse. There's a lot of potential here in this country. There's a lot of potential. So we want to help Ethiopia tap into this potential and to develop this potential. We think that Ethiopia has also done a lot to build this multilateral system and this international world order we are having at the moment. It was one of the founding members of the United Nations.
Very true.
We have a lot of commonalities when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to trade policy and things like that. So we see Ethiopia as an important player when it comes not only to African issues but to world issues. It is therefore right that the African Union is here. The seat of the African Union is in Addis Ababa, and so this is why I would say that through Ethiopia we contribute to our Africa policy, but at the same time also we have in Ethiopia the possibility to work together with our African friends on the continent because of the African Union here.
Very true, very true. That will take me to the, you are also representing Germany as an ambassador to the African Union.
Absolutely, yes.
And Germany has a long history with the OAU and now the African Union. And what are the main areas of your concern or your focus of emphasis when it comes to the African Union?
You know, Professor, you know our history. We know what nationalism can lead to in Europe.
Very true.
We came to the conclusion that after the Second World War, we need to overcome nationalism because it can lead to devastating wars.
Yeah, true.
We had 2 world wars which emanated from, I would say, misunderstood, exaggerated nationalism. And this is why we thought that in order to overcome it, we need to integrate, to increase regional cooperation. This is what we did in Europe. We brought together former enemies like France and Germany, Poland and Germany. They all work now together in the European Union. We are closely related to one another, and we are friends now. We have become friends. It's inconceivable to wage a war against one another. On the contrary, we are very much in the same boat now. Promoting the international rules-based order, promoting prosperity and peace around the world. So I think this is an extremely important asset of the European Union, and this is why the European Union was rightly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And this is why also other countries in Europe want to join the European Union, such as Ukraine. And because of this, we think that also the African integration is so important, because African integration can not only lead to the economic development and prosperity of the whole continent.
Very true.
By promoting intra-Africa trade, cooperation, political cooperation, but also see to it that the Africans can define, formulate and execute their own interests and policies and not be pushed around by big countries. By superpowers. I think this is something which we promote very much. We Germans, we think we have our own experience. We think that was good for Germany, and we want to share our experiences. And this is why we promote the integration of the African Union. And I can give you some examples. We, together with the EU, we are the biggest contributors to the African Union's budget.
Yes,
we want to promote the African Free Trade Area. Because this promotes the industrialization. We want to create jobs, but in a sustainable way, so that you don't, make the mistakes we did in Germany with the very CO2 intensive development of the economy. So we want to put at your disposal also our technology. So it's not only financial contributions, also technological assistance we are providing to you in the area of economic development, but also when it comes to supporting peace support operations. That is also something which is very important to contribute to achieving peace on the continent.
You have raised the very, very pertinent points, especially we surely know to what extent, Germany augments, supports the budget of the African Union. On top of that, many peacekeeping missions, they really depend on German support, because there is a thin line between success and failure of the EU and African politics. And in that respect, Germany had made a whole lot of really contribution. Ethiopia being in the Horn of Africa, in the eastern part of Africa, Somalia, for the last 30 plus years is in turmoil. Now we are happy to see a formal transfer of power, just like 2 weeks ago, as you remember, between President Formaggio and President Mohamud. That plays a role. Ethiopian troops are there as part of the peacekeeping mission. Even Sector 3 is a big area that Ethiopian troops are covering, alongside other African troops, countries, troops contingents. Germany had contributed in lots of ways. In what way and manner do you think that Africans could solve their problems, really, domestic and regional problems?
Well, first of all, let me commend the Ethiopian role as a stabilizing factor in the region. You are contributing a lot with troops to peace support operations, so you contribute a lot to the stabilization of your countries in Africa. So let me first of all say thank you to the Ethiopian government to contributing to that. I think this is extremely important. Another thing which is important is also that we have African solutions to African challenges. This is the motto of the African Union, and Germany really believes in it, because you know best how to deal with your own problems.
Very true.
What we can do is just to offer to you our experience, our expertise, and tell you this is how we solve issues and problems. But it's up to you to say, okay, let's take this and this and this and decide which instrument, which policy is the right one. From our experience, it always has been very helpful to have a holistic approach. So not only to tackle the symptoms, like addressing the challenges and dangers and threats emanating from Al-Shabaab terrorist group, by fighting the Al-Shabaab and AMISOM, the former AMISOM, which is now ATMIS, has the mandate to fight them, and Germany, as the biggest contributor to the EU budget, is very much supporting, as you said, this peace support operation in Somalia. But also we need to address the root causes. What makes the young people go to Al-Shabaab? And that is very often a lack of governance in the areas, the lack of the provision of social services, a lack of economic and social perspectives. So we need to address with our development assistance, which we put at your disposal, these issues of social and economic deprivation of the young people, so that they have an alternative.
True. Giving them life, providing them with jobs, giving them a light to focus on.
Yes, absolutely.
Very true. And I agree, it has to be approached in a very holistic way. Easily young people, in Africa 70% and above are the young in the population, So if they don't have proper education or an opportunity to work, definitely they will be attracted to join a terrorist organization, because they offer them money as well, So that's the problem, empowering the African economies.
Absolutely. But then you have also to see at the global challenges we have as well. And you have now climate change, which is also affecting the regions very much. Somali with these drought we are having there, or Sahel region. So this climate change and the adverse effects of climate change, they have an impact. They can trigger unrest and economic downfall of regions. So we need to address that as well on the global level. So what I'm saying is you need to address these issues not only locally, you have to address them regionally and globally.
Yes, true. Peace, stability go hand in hand. and also with economic opportunities.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that reminds me of the role that Germany plays in the Sahel, where there is another big challenge coming from terrorist groups. There are chapters of Al-Qaeda. There are also chapters of IS, the Islamic State. And together with France, together with USA and the European countries, Germany is playing a role. Could you say something on that?
Yes, I mean, as I said, we are pursuing the same policy I just spelled out, which is to say that we try to address the root causes and also to tackle the symptoms. That is to say, we help with equipment and personnel, the peace support operations in the Sahel regions, but we also try to address the root causes by tackling the social and economic deprivation of the young people there and giving them some sort of a perspective, trying to give them a perspective. And at the same time, we need to address this nexus between these economic and social problems and climate change.
True.
Climate change aggravates the situation in these countries and can trigger, as I said,
very true.
In an environment which is already very stressed, unrest and
very
discontent.
True. Very true. And as an Ethiopian American, it gives me great pride when I see efforts being done by the government led by Prime Minister Abiy. You know, the rainy season is fast there, almost here, coming. And billions of trees are going to be planted again.
Absolutely.
As a fourth year.
Yes.
This is a good response of Ethiopia to the global change.
Yes.
So these kinds of really plans are the way out to other African countries and to the whole world.
Yes.
Because the global climate change is very, very catastrophic. If we don't do anything about it, it will be damaging for whether you are European, American, Brazilian, it doesn't matter, Australian. We live in one boat.
Yes.
All of us are in one planet, the blue planet. We don't need to jeopardize that.
Yes.
Thank you. Can we move out a bit globally?
Sure.
Germany, the second populous country in Europe, 80 plus million. Of course, because Russia Federation has one leg in Europe and the bigger leg in Asia. So Russia is number one, Deutschland, Germany is number two. The biggest economy in Europe and globally as well. A performing society, a society that every year achieves progress. And with that comes responsibility. And Germany is also a member of the United Nations. That's my question. And there is a big talk now, actually not now, since Kofi Annan was the Secretary General, as far as I recall, of restructuring the Security Council. And academicians, Germans, Africans, Europeans, they are talking about really expanding the Security Council and including such heavyweight countries like Germany, Deutschland from Europe, Japan from Asia, from Africa, Nigeria, of course, and from Latin America, Brazil. How do you see this? Is there any approach, governmental approach as well? Thank you.
Yes, no, definitely. I think we are very interested in reforming the United Nations, in particular the United Nations Security Council. The Security Council, as you know, reflects very much the order as it was after the Second World War. And it doesn't reflect anymore the situation as we have it here. Look at the G20, for instance, which does reflect more or less the big economic powers in the world. But not many of them are represented in the Security Council. I'm not saying that the G20 should represent or should be the same as the Security Council. What I'm saying is that continents are not represented at all in the Security Council as a permanent member. So you have in Africa the A3, of course. But what I'm saying as a permanent member, and they have the veto right, and they can block everything. And unfortunately, you see that many countries, in particular Russia, is blocking a lot of the decisions in the Security Council. This permanent member status is of primary importance. So what Germany is advocating is to have a Security Council which represents the current world order. And that, of course, would include representatives from Africa, that Africa is represented in the Security Council, that Latin America is represented in the Security Council, and that, of course, we think also Germany should be represented if the world thinks that it is a good thing to do. Then we would be willing to accept further responsibility also in the Security Council.
Very good, very good. Thank you, thank you. Well said, well said. Now I want to go back to the business, because Germany is one of those few countries that has designed to solidify, to strengthen the business, trade and investment relations with Africa. And you have, I believe the third one was held in 2019, the German African Trade Summit or Business Summit. How is it coming along? I know COVID that had slowed down so many things, you know.
We need to improve this. It is growing steadily, the German investments in Africa, and trade as well, but there is still a lot of potential. And in that context, I also want to see the African free trade area to develop further, because I think this is a good opportunity for German investments to put at the disposal the technology of German companies to develop African continent. So I think it is progressing, but it could be better. As you said in one of your remarks, there's a very close connection between peace and security on the one hand and development. Financing investments, they shy away if they have an insecure environment. So what we need to achieve is to strengthen peace and security, to strengthen the rule of law, and yes, the overall environment to do business in a country. And this is why we are very much encouraged by what the Prime Minister, His Excellency Abiy Ahmed, is doing at the moment, reforming, opening up the economy to foreign investments, and and undertaking steps to solve the conflict in the north of Ethiopia peacefully. I think this is extremely important to create this conducive environment to attract foreign investments.
Very true. And Africa, not only Ethiopia, the whole of Africa can benefit out of, say, Germany stands for quality. Of course, with quality comes, it's going to be expensive.
Well, I think, as I may say, and it's a sort of anecdote which I tell you, I said when I was in Brussels, I was posted to Brussels, there was a Belgian going to a German car company, which I will not mention now, and said, listen, I don't have much money, but I want to buy a German car because I don't have much money. Why?
Why?
Because it lasts long.
Yes, absolutely.
The quality is important.
Quality.
The quality is important, and it lasts long. It's better to buy something which lasts long,
absolutely,
and which breaks.
Even if it's a bit expensive, it's better to. It's an investment in the future.
Absolutely.
Maybe I take the liberty of maybe saying a few brands, maybe if I'm allowed in that. From machineries, machine tools, publishing machines, the best. Heidelberg or what have you, Germany. Even basic things like cars.
Thank you very much.
Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, of course, VW, Volkswagen. By the way, the Ethiopian Investment Commission and VW, Volkswagen GmbH, they had signed, while I was doing research to interview you in 2019, they signed a memorandum of understanding. I don't know what happened to it, but there was some kind of an effort. But German cars are in South Africa. Really, all kinds of cars are in South Africa. So there are things that one can benefit from Germany, but quality and diligence doesn't come easy. It becomes a bit expensive, but I think there's a whole lot of trade that Africans can benefit from Germany. Technology transfer, pharmaceuticals, chemicals.
Yes.
We sell, I think, coffee and textile to Germany, basically. But from Germany we buy pharmaceuticals, cars, machineries, things like that.
Yes, but this is why we are trying to also increase the value chain here in Africa through our development assessment, so that you can also export more highly priced goods to Europe, to the world. I think that is very important.
Very true. Thank you. Now let me take you to the current global crisis. It's not only European, it has become a global. Why do I say that? Because of the crisis in the Ukraine and Russia. People are dying. There are a whole lot of things going on. One of the impacts of any war is that besides the dying and the destruction of property and lives is in economic production. Wheat, the price of wheat is going up, and it so happens that both countries belong to the top producers of wheat, and this is going to affect even Africa and the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
The rest of the world. The bread that we eat right now was harvested 3, 4, 6 months ago. And if we don't harvest and we fight each other right now, we're going to go hungry in 6 months. And of course, please do, if you want to care to comment on the government's, the Prime Minister Abiy's government to plant more and more, rain-fed, what we call the summer wheat. That might save Ethiopia. So how do you see the crisis, the current crisis? Where are we going?
Yes.
How can we find a solution? I know it's a big question. Take time as much as you want.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you also very much for giving me the opportunity to rectify some things which have been circulated by the disinformation campaign from Moscow. I think what is extremely important to just say is that we are facing in Europe a major crisis initiated by the aggression from Russia on a sovereign, independent country like Ukraine. This is a blatant violation of the rules-based order I just mentioned in the beginning. We need to see that Russia is knowingly and willingly attacking civilian infrastructure in Ukraine and is also attacking the agricultural infrastructure in Ukraine. It is blocking the exports of grain to the world, of Ukrainian grain. One of the biggest producers of wheat and grain is Ukraine. Illegally occupied territories in Ukraine, the grain from Ukraine. And with this, they contribute to this increase of a food crisis and food insecurity worldwide. We see here a Russian aggression on a country which is trying to survive and to be independent and to have its self-determination. And this is something which is extremely worrying, and we need to stand together to defend this country and to stand by its side. What we see in Europe is, unfortunately, the Russian President Putin to re-establish the Russian Empire. Ukraine used to belong to the Soviet Union, as you know, and he is now trying to reintegrate Ukraine into his sphere of influence. And we need to tackle that, not only because we have an interest in defending the international rules-based order, which defends not only bigger countries, but in particular weaker countries. We do not want that at the end of the day, the mighty one, the country with the military power, can impose himself on others. And that is exactly what the international world order prevents, so we need to defend it. It's not, let me be clear, this is not a war of Russia against the West. This is a war of Russia against us all. Again, from Putin putting into danger the international world order. And this is why we need to stand together to push him back and to ask him to stop this war. Not only because we want to have an international world order re-established, but because we also want that these repercussions on the food, on the food security stops. That is to say, if we want that the price hikes on food, on fertilizer, on oil stops, we need to stop the war of food, rising costs of grain, and rising cost of fuel. And we need to stand together to have him stop this.
A series of sanctions have been imposed individually and collectively by the European Union members and by America, USA as well. Do you think the sanctions are working? Are they effective? Any impacts? Yeah.
Well, you know, the sanctions are having a medium to long-term effect. They will not stop it immediately, the war, but I think that they are already having effect. We see that already, and they will have a medium to long-term effect. We see that the Russian economy is suffering a lot. We see that many oligarchs which are supporting the system of Putin, the regime, are, you know, getting more and more concerned, are, you know, trying to transfer the money abroad. So they are very concerned, and this is something which we want to address. Sanction the Russian people, and the sanctions. But let me also be clear on that: they do not target the Russian agricultural things, so they can export it, whatever they say. And this is again something which is a disinformation campaign from Russia, that they say that the sanctions target are the cause for the rising food prices, which is they do not target the food system, not at all. On the contrary, in spite of all this, Germany, the G7, we have the presidency of the G7, the EU, the United States, the United Nations, we try to help alleviate these price shocks on the people by trying to see whether we can define alternative routes of export. We, on the 24th of June, we are convening an international conference in Berlin where we invite also the Ethiopian government to participate in order to see and to brainstorm how can we address the many challenges we are facing now, with which means, with which methods, which instruments do we have at our disposal. So it's certainly alternative routes. It's of course also money. Germany puts a lot of money into it. Only in this year we will be providing 4 billion euros additionally for addressing these issues of food security.
Maybe if I may follow up on what you said, and I listen with you to what you say attentively. It's a very complex problem, problem. Sanctions, we talked about that, of course. How about negotiation?
Yes.
I think wouldn't that be one solution really? One, and my follow-up question is, you know, I remember in the 60s, rather 70s and 80s, the European Union had the policy of, you know, working together with Russia. You know, it's still a neighboring country, you know, not far from Europe. It's a European power as well as an Asian power, Russia as such, the former USSR, the current Russian Federation. The policy at the time, if I say, let's say the example of, we're talking about it, I think, with Gerhard Schröder, when he was chancellor at the time, was to really extend the economic interaction, strengthen that, so that, you know, Deutschland, you know, 40% Germany is dependent on Russian gas, and now, you know, the situation is, you know.
Yes.
So there was an attempt to bring into the fold Russia.
Absolutely.
So is Europe, Germany, are they going to give up on that? Because sometimes, you know, this might be methods of peace, finding solutions. Yeah.
Well, you know, you're absolutely right. We have been trying to integrate Russia into the European structures. This was the idea of the European integration, you know, through economic integration to increase the interest of collaboration, which would then end in friendship and political integration. This worked in the European Union, and we offered it also to Russia. Up to the 24th of February 2022, this is and was our policy, namely to try to integrate Russia in this economic, political structure in Europe. Unfortunately, and very sadly, President Putin, with his invasion, showed that he has no interest at all in having this. This is very unfortunate. Of course, we will have an interest in a negotiated peace settlement. However, we have to be clear that as long as the fighting is going on, as long as Russia is attacking daily with massive strikes. Ukrainian civilian infrastructure is occupying 20%, illegally occupying 20% of Ukrainian territory. This is very difficult to see how we can reach a negotiated solution. For us, bottom line must be the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. And whatever Ukraine says, we are happy to support. If the Ukrainians ask us to contribute to a peace solution, we'll be happy to do that. But it's the Ukrainian who have to decide.
Yeah. Thank you for taking time to explain. And it's a very complex problem, and we do hope as Ethiopians that peace will prevail in Europe, and this will find a solution. We do hope and pray and cross our fingers, because otherwise, it's really, the other alternative is a nightmare, so to speak. If this thing continues, one thing leading to the other, it might be very, very complicated, and we pray it will have a solution. Now, my last part of my question will be a sort of a Kaffeeklatsch, as one says in Deutsch, in German. So, really, you speak Arabic. You were born in Tangier, so you are one of us, an African in a way.
Yes.
Yeah,
you.
definitely. Yes.
Thank you.
And do you speak a few words in Amharic? Do you have time to learn a few words in Amharic? Have you traveled a lot in Ethiopia as part of your job as an ambassador, representing Deutschland, as well as in your personal capacity?
I speak a few words of Amharic, but not many. Unfortunately, I was so busy here because I also I have a double hat. So I'm accredited to the government of Ethiopia, but also to the African Union. So it's quite busy and we've had a lot to do in the last couple of months because of all the many challenges we are facing here. But I was able to travel quite a lot in spite of the COVID and the situation here. I was to the south. I just came back from the Somali region, which is very impressive what the regional president is doing there in trying to develop the country. Of course, in spite of all the challenges he's facing with the drought, and the Al-Shabaab threat coming from the east. So they are. Let me say that in conclusion, perhaps, for me, this country, Ethiopia, is not only a beautiful country with so much potential and very rich culture and tradition, the cradle of humanity and the cradle of coffee, which I love, by the way. Yeah. But it has also got a lot of potential to develop, as I said, into economic and political powerhouse.
I agree.
And I think if Ethiopia manages to reform itself into being a democratic, economically vibrant and prosperous country, then it can serve as a role model not only for other African countries but for the whole world.
Exactly.
And from the bottom of my heart, I wish you all success in this, and just be assured that Germany stands by your side.
Thank you so much, really. And also here when I speak with you, it's a new phenomenon in Ethiopia. I represent the private media, which was not allowed. And we in Ethiopians, we sincerely believe, and also living in America, teaching and working there, the private media has its own role to play besides the Deutsche Welle, the public one, for example, or RFI, like the French one, or BBC even. We sincerely believe in that. And we are trying to use this political space right now since 2018. We want to strengthen and contribute our role to the one country that we love. We want a stable, peaceful, progressive Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a rich country, I agree with you. And thank you for your really kind words and the best for Ethiopia. And I hope we're going to make it in the coming years to come. And also with that, the German-Ethiopian relations will be strengthened, will be stronger and stronger.
I wish you all the best and very successful continuation of the very important role you have as a private media enterprise. Thank you very much again for welcoming me to your show.
It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dear viewers, that was His Excellency Ambassador Stephan Auer. He's the ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Ethiopia, as well as to the African Union. He was gracious with his time and very humble and very forthcoming. Thank you once again for being our guest. I sign off until we meet again with another guest. It's me, Professor Brooke Hailu Besha. of Now TV. Until next time, take care.